And all of these gods had a very similar story. And this is now where it becomes quite fascinating. All of these gods, if we examine the mythology, the story and the history of these gods, they all shared an almost identical and similar story. First of all, they were all called mediator, savior, healer, light bearer, deliverer. These are the common names of these gods. And their story almost always is orientated around their birth taking place on or around the 25th of September, of a virgin in a cave. These are all human beings who are gods, so they are man gods. And often they are the son of a god. And often we find, as in the case of Mithra, for example, they are part of a trinity of gods. In the case of Mithra, we have Mithra, Sol, Invictus, and Saturnalius. This is a trinity of gods the Romans, in fact, invented. And it becomes very important, this particular trinity, and this particular belief the Romans had, will become very important, and we will understand it, God willing, in a minute. So all of these gods were born on or around the 25th of December. At that time, they were defeated or nearly overcome by darkness and the god of the underworld, and they were taken into the underworld. But they were reborn again. They were reborn again. And their rebirth always took place on or around Easter time. Their rebirth took place on or around Easter time. In fact, the word Easter itself comes from the name of the goddess of light, Eostra, or Astarte, or Ishtar. Ishtar, Astarte, Eostre. They are the names of goddesses, and the word Easter is actually derived from them. Sunday is named after the sun god. Tuesday, Thursday, 4, after 4. In fact, all of the days of the week that we know, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, they are named Saturday after Saturnalius. They are named after Roman gods. Sunday was the holy day of most pagans, because all of these gods that we're talking about were derived from nature worship. And their story was all the same because the experience of human beings was very similar throughout the world. They found that on or around, and I say the world, the Western Hemisphere, of course, down in Australia it works all quite differently, okay? But we're talking about the Western world here. We find why. Why is their story so similar? Why is their story so much the same? Because this is what paganism is. Paganism is the worship of nature. And so what happened on or around the 25th of December? Around the 25th of December, what do we have? The winter solstice. The winter solstice is the shortest day. And for pagans who worship the sun was the things they worshipped and reverenced the most. So at the time of the winter solstice, they imagined that the sun was dying. That the sun was dying. In the northern hemisphere, especially up in the north, that is why, for example, they would cut down an evergreen tree. They would cut down a tree, an evergreen tree. Because everything was dying. The leaves were falling, the plants were dying, but these trees, the evergreen trees, still had life. They were still green. So they imagined, therefore, that the evergreen tree was symbolically connected to the God of life, or it had within itself a God that kept it alive. So they would chop it down and they would place it in their homes and they would decorate it. And underneath this idol they would place presents underneath the tree. What is now known as the Christmas pudding, that orb, I don't know if you have that sort of half orb, the Christmas pudding, and well, maybe the Muslims here don't know about it, and they pour over it brandy, and then they light it, and it comes ablaze. These are all connected with the pagan rituals that are supposed to return or bring back the dying sun. So the sun is dying. The sun is dying. And on the 25th of December, so the winter solstice is on the 22nd, but on the 25th, what happens? The sun is reborn. The days begin to get longer. The sun is reborn. And once again, the sun returns to life. So at this time, there is great celebration, great festivity, great enjoyment, because the Savior is born. Now, whether it was Artis, Mithra, Osiris, Baal, Dionysus, or Jesus, it's the same mythology, the same concept, paganism. How Jesus came to be mixed up in all of this, we'll see, inshallah, God willing. Now we find the story goes on, because at Easter time is the time of full rebirth, the time of resurrection. Again, in the Western Hemisphere, what happens is things start coming back to life. The leaves start appearing on the trees. The birds start laying their eggs. The little bunny rabbits start appearing again. Okay? Thus the Easter bunny, thus the Easter eggs. It is all connected to paganism. And very often we find, again, in these mystery religions, these pagan religions, this God, whether it's Mithra or Osiris or Artis or Dionysus or Hercules, often they are nailed to a tree, or they are bled. And their blood and their sacrifice, which they sacrifice themselves at this time of Easter, gives life again. And through that, the people are delivered, life returns, sins are forgiven, and life is renewed. This is pagan mythology. Now, they discovered in about 1903, German excavators, they discovered the story of the passion of the Babylonian Baal. Baal actually is mentioned quite a bit in the Bible. Baal is one of the gods that the children of Israel, the Beni Israel, again and again they seem to keep going to the worship of this Baal. That's why the God keeps sending prophets. Because unfortunately, very often, some of these people start going astray. They leave the pure monotheism. They leave the pure and true religion that God revealed to Moses, and they go astray. That's one of the reasons God sends prophets. And Baal is one of these false gods that they feel tempted to worship. Now, they found the passion of Baal on some clay tablets. Of course, by the way, it's also very important to point out that these religions and these gods existed at the time of Jesus and thousands of years before the time of Jesus. They're not imitations of the Christian story. In fact, as we will clearly see, it's the other way round. The so-called passion of Christ is nothing except a pure imitation of the paganism of these gods and these people that they went through. It's exactly verbatim a copy of it, we will find. So we take the passion of Baal. The mystery of Baal was enacted every year in the spring. In places, the Baal text incidents are so close to the gospel sequence that one might even wonder if they formed a written source. They include the details of Baal's capture and his trial in the house on the mount, his torture and being led away to death together with a malefactor. Another, also charged as a malefactor, was set free. The city broke out in tumult and fighting.